time, and now I'll just rock the hood up.
Oh, sure.
No, let's not do that. All right, what's up, Mr. Rob?
Hey, buddy.
Again,
it's you and I. What?
Yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do here.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the Heroes World podcast. We're obviously going to be reviewing the season finale, maybe series finale of the Book of Boba Fett. This guy over here is John Ho. I am Rob G'day. And our master of ceremonies, once again, Stu, is unavailable. Supposedly trekking through the mountains of Kathmandu. Do they even have mountains there?
Kathmandu, that's your go-to, Kathmandu.
Well, I was gonna say like maybe he's sitting here smoking a bong in the forests of BC. I'm not sure.
No, he's doing the Rocky IV montage, a la in Russia, walking through the snow.
Here's the problem: you've used that joke before. You've failed. I don't know where Stu is. But nevertheless, our fearless leader will return at some point. So in the meantime, you're stuck with John and I. Although I do hear some heavy breathing. John, is that you breathing heavily?
No. I don't think so.
Okay.
Hold on a second. No.
Okay. All right. So,
so this was a bit where Stu was supposed to jump in, but I think he's gonna F with us and just let us sweat it out.
I don't know shit. We've been doing this for
and he's gonna
5
be
weeks.
Like 10 minutes to go in the episode. He's gonna be like, "Hey, what's up, guys? I'm here." Or he fell asleep. Actually, he might have fallen asleep.
I am reading the Great Tablets of Vanis.
Oh,
the script
boy.
that is script. I've come down from the mountains of Dagobah to give you some knowledge and some respite. No fault, none to blame it. It does not mean I don't desire to. Point the finger, blame the other. Watch the temple top over.
Oh God! Look
and
at
then
this.
It begins. The Temple of Vanis, and I have returned from my time. Hang out with Grogu and the Jedi Masters themselves.
Welcome back,
Thank
buddy.
you for having me. You know, Vanis is a very powerful force. The Force, as you would say. and the writings are real. Rob,
we missed you, pal. We knew that you were testing out new North Face jackets in the cold Arctic of Sudbury, Ontario. We're glad that you're back safe and sound.
You know, I'm such a fan of Letterkenny. I just had to experience it myself in school too. You know, it's one of those things. Those that don't know, filmed in Sudbury. Anyways, welcome to the Heroes World Quarantine Podcast. We're here to talk about Chapter 7 in the name of honor. So, before we go on to our ratings out of 10, and let's see where John goes. Let's talk about your general thoughts, John. What do you think of this episode? The final conclusion.
Before I jump in, Stu, can we get your quick thoughts on the previous episode since you weren't here with us last episode? That was episode 6.
That would be episode 6. Title of whom, From the Desert Comes a Stranger.
Yeah.
I thought that it was really weird. Because it wasn't like a Boba Fett.
But this episode. Is your guy. So spoiler alert if you haven't seen episode 6 for some reason and you're watching our
you're watching this episode.
So just in case. But yeah, your guy, Cad Bane from Clone Wars, showed up. Were you surprised?
Very much surprised. But it fits the Western motif because he's kind of like the good, bad, and the ugly. Like he has that swagger, that feel. It was really weird because we talked about it for episode, and as much as we jumped with glee for episode 5, the first 4 episodes of Boba Fett were about Boba Fett, and the last 3 are like special guest star Boba Fett, and meanwhile the main star is the Mandalorian. So that one was such a weird change because one, Luke Skywalker was there, and Luke looked tremendous. I know Rob and myself were just chatting that the CGI looks so incredible. We can say no matter what we say about these Star Wars shows, and no matter what we say about these Marvel Disney Plus shows, they're gonna look awesome. You might not like the story, but you better believe they look awesome. And Cad Bane looked incredible. John and myself were also texting back and forth and like, oh my God, are they gonna what's gonna happen to Timothy Oliphant? And John's like, what's gonna happen to him? I'm like, please Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah.
One
Stu was like,
bullet
send me a screenshot, and it was like shoulder shot. Don't worry.
I was like, no, he's fine. He's fine. Just put him in a BAPTA tank. He'll be fine. Like, it doesn't matter. You can't kill.
Apparently.
You can't kill Seth, and you can't kill our boy Raylan Gibbons with a shot like that. He'll just put some tussin on him and he'll walk it off. So I thought it was such an interesting mix because they added all this lore, all this Filoni sprinkle dust, and then by the end it's like, oh, here's 2 seconds of Boba Fett again, and I'm like, all right, I guess this is what we are now. It's really weird how they did the narrative, and it talks about this episode. They did a Godfather 2, where there's a lot of flashbacks.
Yeah,
and I was really confused. I'm like, man, this episode specifically 7, going into it was, without ruining it, was so much Godfather 2 that I was just like, I guess this is what it's all about. So, yeah, Cad Bane was great. The Jedi Temple, great. All these different things, it's fine. But I thought that it was really well done. And again, like, the guy who plays Luke is great. It's perfect. It was perfect. If that's the way they're going to do it going forward, bravo. That's what I want. I want cool Luke. This is everything I wanted in life. Cool Luke that's not sad and curmudgeon like he was in the last 3 movies. But John, give us your thoughts on episode.
Yeah. Okay.
7.
So now we're going to switch gears, talking episode 7, folks. So as a finale, I don't know why I got my hopes up for this, but after I guess the last 2 episodes, I was really like, oh man, okay. So yeah, they know what they're doing. They kind of were kind of cracking something open for the first 4 episodes. Throw us a Mandalorian, and I was like, oh, they're gonna have a big finish. But for some reason, and we're gonna get into it when we get into spoilers. This one didn't work for me. I think there was a metaphor used for Mandalorian when we talked about it. The first Mandalorian started when they were like, oh, it's like we got the toys from the toy box, but our older brother took all the good toys. This episode was very much someone with all these toys, which is all this money that Stu's talking about, all these FX, making everything look beautiful, and they're just playing with them. They're just like, messing around with them for some reason. Unfortunately, I really wanted to be on board for this final episode, but it was too much, like, all over the place. And I think I'll just leave it up to the sense of space and awareness and timing and all that kind of stuff was all whack for me for some reason. So that's my overall thoughts without spoiling.
Okay, Rob.
Listen, I said it before on every episode, and I'll say it again and reiterate what you just said a few moments ago, Stu. It looks gorgeous. It's bright. It's crystal clear. If you have a nice high-res 4K television or whatever, I'm sure it's popping and you're like, wow, this looks sick. And I'm happy for you. But this episode for me was, to kind of, I guess, reiterate what John said, was a little bit all over the place. We'll get into it deeper. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't like it. Like, I felt like it was the equivalent of eating an ice cube, where it's like, well, it's kind of refreshing, but there's no taste to it, so I don't really know if I need to eat this ice cube.
Can I have a popsicle, Mom?
Yeah, no, you
have an ice cube on a stick.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we need to talk about Robert Rodriguez's direction. I feel like if you go back to a lot of the episodes that he has directed, even the Mandalorian stuff, his style it's weird. It's different. We actually kind of brought this up a few episodes ago. We were like, you wouldn't have really known it was directed by Rodriguez. And aside from one Desperado type move that did not work very well, it was poorly executed. No,
Danny Trejo should have been called.
He should have been in the episode, but by a poorly executed Desperado ripoff twirling move, I'm happy we saw it. I'm glad it's over. And aside from episode 5 and maybe part of 6, there's nothing else I want to rewatch of this series.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Stu's acting very shocked. What about you, Stu?
I actually kind of liked it. I was in.
Get down.
Yeah, I was down.
It doesn't surprise me though.
I feel there was so much homage. I love The Godfather. It was everything I wanted was there. All the little nuances, all the little things that happened in this episode. The every cliche gangster, like they're all backed up in the corner, the Sonny lining up at the turnstile and being gunned down. Like, spoilers for The Godfather 2.
If you haven't, 1979. If you haven't had an opportunity to see it, yeah.
Well, some people aren't old enough to watch The Godfather, and anyways, there's some parts in it that I really enjoyed, and I think if they made the decision to go maybe pivot and they're like, okay, we're gonna go full Boba Fett, and then they realized more Timu, maybe we need to balance this out and put other people there. I think once kind of like the Black Panther situation, it's like, we can stay away from Black Panther in the movie and bring everyone else in. Maybe there's a way for, if there's going to get a second season, which I probably think they will, based on just the fact that the kids and stuff will watch it. And frankly, it's not like anyone on the show is expensive. Like, is Ming-Na gonna like making some coin? Like, they're using the same desert sets. It's the same thing. It's the family. And even at the end, like the montage of all of them getting together, hanging out. It's like, all right, cool. Like, I was just waiting for medals to be given out. Like, it was one of those things where, yeah. So, like,
no, he wouldn't get one.
Yeah.
So like the original.
Yeah. So we'll go to spoilers because I didn't hate it. I'll probably rewatch this episode because there was a couple moments where I just super enjoyed. John, what do you give this out of 10?
Yeah. So out of 10, I don't think I was gonna try and watch it one more time for us to record this, and I couldn't do it. There's too many other things that I would rather do and get to. So unfortunately, I almost want to give it a 4 out of 10, but I hate stomping on people's work, so I'm gonna give it 5 out of 10. It just 50% skates past. Yeah.
Rob?
Well, I was going to give it a bit higher than John, but I'm actually going to kick it up to a 7.5, and I'll tell you why. Because at least we had Boba Fett do something.
What did he do?
We'll get into it, but at least he did something with a passion. And
did many things.
Right, but there was one thing he did full of passion. And I was like, well, hey, 7 episodes later, and he finally woke up. So at least we got that.
Yep.
I'm going to give it an 8?
Yeah, I'm 100% giving it an 8. 100% giving it an 8. It without going into full details, it paid off on a bunch of things that happened. I was happy to see it, and without spoiler, Ming-Na was awesome. John, that's a 2-point bump for you just based on Ming-Na being awesome.
That's why I can't. That's why I can't fail it. I can't fail it. I couldn't.
He was also absent for a good part of it, but yeah, okay.
yeah, it's true, but that's the good stuff. So yeah, I thought, and again, the whatever CGI money they're spending on Cad Bane, keep on going, man.
No, I don't think they are, dude. That's all. That looks to me that's practical. I mean,
but besides the mouth, I think it's everything but the mouth. The mouth is probably CGI.
Yeah, the mouth, you can see the teeth.
But his
and
mouth
his lips kind of.
No, his mouth is real. You can see like.
Yeah, but I think it is prospects, but I think the mouth itself is some CGI work. So it's kind of like
there's a lot. I would be very surprised if it's not. Because there's a lot going on there.
There's a lot of moving, and even the prosthetics today to move the mouth. Like, I think you're right. The moving of just the sides will probably do it, but then they're gonna do CGI to do the rest of the mouth because the teeth and all that stuff is like really. Again, I'd be really impressed if the whole mouth was CGI because again, typically for that type of rig, like even if it's a massive head, there's a lot of mechanics that have to go into that. Typically, it's like. To do the mechanics and stuff.
The technology very well might be there, but I think I see what you're saying, Stu. Like you would see his lips kind of roll up off his teeth, like just a little bit. It wouldn't be like a lot, and it was very like very subtle the movements. So I feel like it was CG.
Yeah,
or
whatever. Nonetheless, all right, let's go into full spoilers because we've given our marks, our ratings, and John. So we know. You were underwhelmed. So what was so underwhelming about Boba Fett being good at something for once?
What was he good at though? He wasn't
fighting.
Okay, so I
for once. You know what, John? You remember he had a jetpack. He
did remember he had a jetpack, and he did fire his knee rockets for the first time since freaking Mandalorian season 2. But I guess he didn't load that many in them. But I think it's more of like I'm pressing upon this a little bit of a higher expectation of what I want to see from these things, because I play these games. It reminded me a lot of the Star Wars Legion miniature game that I played. And if anyone played with the strategy that they use in the show, they would lose instantly. It was ridiculous. Like the war. So I'm going to focus on the war that they were having. So mostly the space, it didn't make sense. Like
a skirmish. It's not really a war.
No, they called it a war. They called it a war.
Mafia term war.
They said war is coming, and yeah, it was not a war. Yeah, the pikemen, the pike syndicate maybe had 20 guys. Maybe had 20 guys.
They had more guys. Yeah, more than that. They had like 100. Yeah, they were coming out like cockroaches.
It felt like they had 20 guys. It was not effective. Every time a guy had to come and shoot, he stood out in the wide open to shoot so he could get shot off the roof.
John, these are water people. They're not used to walking in the desert, okay?
Yeah. If they set up pools and slid in like slip and slide, then that would have been more interesting.
I heard they had the same marksman capability as stormtroopers. And they're the best in the galaxy.
Yeah,
or as Cobra soldiers.
It felt like it, but yeah, I don't know who. Like it's just the whole setup. It's like they kind of got to set or whatever, and they didn't plan out where people were going to be and things like that. So tactically, it looked extremely bad. Like everyone, like they were pinned, and then they were waiting for the reinforcements, which I question the word reinforcements when it's 7 guys in like a truck. But
first off, we've learned from Game of Thrones. One person can be equal to 5, especially if they are a Mormont.
No, they already had they already had a squad of elite bounty hunters that should have been more than enough. So I feel like these 7 guys running up in a truck and then proceeding to line up in the point where they're pinned. It's kind of like, hey, join us in this area that we're pinned in, so you can also be pinned down behind this speeder. So I don't know. It's just something about the space. You just don't know
the term country strong. You just don't understand.
Maybe I don't, but just something about the space and the whole fight, like with the bubble bots and all that kind of stuff. The battle droids. The taking of the special cycler rifle to shoot the bubble droid from point blank up top. Like there's just too much of that I couldn't get past. And then Rob mentioned the whole spin around shooting scene. Like it didn't work. They had a cool, like, the RoboCop moment where it was the 2 Mandalorians like kind of back to back going through the city town. Kind of neat. But it just overall didn't work for me. I don't know. I feel like I'm bashing it too much. So I'll say one thing I did like. There's the moment where I feel like this was almost a Desperado moment. When it's Mandalorian and Boba Fett in the building. Yep. And Boba Fett's like, yeah, you can go. Your obligation to me is done. And kind of like Mandalorian, it's basically his version of we ride together, we die together, which is this is the way. Kind of like this. Yeah, this is how I go down. This is guns blazing. We go down. Like I really like that moment. But some of the moments that were in the previous 2 episodes, the pacing and the way they kind of went back and forth in scenes, I feel like it wasn't here at all. But let's let you guys get into it. I feel like I'm just bashing it too much. It just didn't work for me.
To be fair, I don't think John's watched Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, so you have no idea what that reference would be for that. So we're gonna let that one slide. Rob?
Yeah, I'm just gonna pick up on a thread that John ended with. The interaction between Boba Fett and Mandalorian. It's very interesting that they're chemistry together because Mandalorian's like, when Boba Fett says, you could just go ahead and take off your decent pay, and he goes, no, I'm going to stick around, this and that. And he goes, this is the way. And Boba Fett's like, you still believing in that garbage? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that type of stuff. Like, I think that is probably an untapped strength between those two that would probably have made this show, if Mandalorian was in it and the interaction together, probably would have made it a lot more fun. And I almost feel it was a bit of a missed opportunity because that moment, them huddled together in the blown out bar was really cool. Like their discussion. And so I actually wanted more of that. And we didn't get a lot of that. And then I actually kind of felt that if we had more of that, as much as I like Fennec Shand, but if we had a lot more of that throughout the course of these 7 episodes, I think that this would have been totally would have been a much different series.
Yep.
That all said, with respect to this episode, listen, I'm surprised that we got Grogu's decision. I honestly thought we weren't going to get that until season 3. So color me shocked to shit when, the X-Wing comes and lands and
you got
and
the
he's
shirt
there. Yeah. And he's wearing the thing. I felt like they were cramming a lot into this episode. And also this Grogu aspect, because if you really think about it, he kind of helped stop the Rancor, but he really provided nothing else except for a distraction. There was nothing that was really required or needed. There was no motivation of the Mandalorian. You saw him stave.
He did one thing, Rob. He made us care about a character, because frankly, everyone else, I didn't care if they died or lived. No attachment to anyone. I'm like, Grogu's here.
Yeah, but I kind of felt that they were just shoving it in, going, we got to do something that make people really like this episode. Let's bring the little guy in again. I don't know. I just felt like it was shoehorned in without serving a purpose.
I did like the scene where he's tapping on the glass at the end.
Well, yeah, and he wants to go. That was really cool. But it just,
that was great.
I felt like they just shoehorned him in. It didn't. His role in this episode didn't serve a purpose.
You like when he first showed up in the buggy and they just had a blanket over it?
Yeah, there's surprise!
Which is not what you do with kids. You don't put the blanket over their face.
Well, so I will say, again, going back to the interaction between Boba Fett and Mandalorian, the two of them on their jetpacks when they're up in the air together shooting down at the Pike Syndicate, that was a really cool scene. This episode does have a lot of cool wallpaper screenshot scenes that you're like, holy shit, that looks cool. I want to use my hot toys and recreate this type of scene. But I felt there was no substance. You know what I'm saying? It just felt like there wasn't any real meat into it. And I know, Stu, that you said it's a bit of a Godfather 2 parallels, and I could see that. But it didn't help move for me the story past the ranking that I gave it. I'm more interested to find out now what happens with Mandalorian and Grogu if they're heading back to where Luke is. The Fennec Shan stuff, again, she took off. She was gone for a good 15 minutes of this episode. And at one point, I turned to my son.
Army herself.
Well, I turned to my son and I was like,
other things to do.
Right. I know, but I said, do you think she's a double agent? Because she was gone, these guys were under siege, and we're dying. They're being shot to shit, and she's nowhere to be found. And I was like, do you think she might be working behind Boba Fett's back? Because he was so reliant on everything with her. He was always looking at her, and she was giving him almost as if she was Daibo, whatever they Damn, yeah. So it was a Daibo. And so it was like really bizarre, like her power, like their power shift between the two of them. And you know, again, but then she, you know, she takes out the head of the Pike Syndicate, but there was no, she just is gone. Then she shows up and boom, boom, boom. And then somehow she's back hanging out with him again. We saw the return of the crazy kids.
The mods.
The mod squad, they didn't really do a lot. Like it just felt like they were more of a liability. Like, oh shit, we're pinned down, somebody help us. And we're like, yeah, we'll get to you when we get to you.
They're the eyes and the ears on the street, man. These are the kids.
But again, they were just shoving these characters that we've seen throughout this entire series and being like, oh, we need you for the finale, without really bringing substance.
I disagree, but yeah, keep on going.
But, you know, I just wish that they had... there was another thing I was going to say that I actually really like, but I can't remember what it was now. So I just wish that we had more of an interaction between Boba Fett and the Mandalorian throughout the course of the series, because that was their strength. Oh, I mean, listen, hey, the Rancor thing was pretty cool. My son's like, oh, this is like Godzilla or King Kong when he was climbing up the top. And I was like, oh, cool. Now we're into a kaiju episode. I actually thought we'd see Danny Trejo in this series.
That would have been great.
He's busy, man.
You know, at the end of the day, I think that the finale served the purpose of the story. But I think it's because the overall story was so lackluster that you really didn't need a lot. The one thing I was going to is Boba Fett kills Cad Bane. Like, that was the moment I was saying, John, where at least he did something, because he got so angry. He was so pissed off.
How did he even get the drop on him?
Well, I had to rewind that a couple of times, because it was a weird editing where he used that staff that he made in like episode 3.
It's a shower rod. It's a shower curtain.
Right. But with the acorn thing. But he did sweep, but it was a weird edit, like a splice, and it wasn't as fluid. So it was just a bizarre, and all of a sudden he has the upper hand. So, but at least he emoted. That was the one thing we were waiting for, is at least he did something. And I was like, oh fuck, thank God he's got anger, and we're actually seeing it. So,
for all the big Star Wars nerds out there, we know that there was Filoni wrote an episode with Cad Bane and Boba Fett fighting. And the reason why there's the divot in Boba Fett's helmet is because Cad Bane shot him. And there's a reason why Cad Bane has a plate on his head, because Boba Fett shot him in the head. So there is kind of a thing. It's like that metal plate on this. You can see it on Cad Bane. That was Boba Fett's doing. And then thus the same thing on Boba Fett's.
I wonder why they didn't recap that, Stu. Do you think they just
because it wasn't
Easter egg status? Because I feel like nobody knew that.
It's not canonical because they didn't render it. Like there's like pre-reviz and stuff like that happened. It was one of those things that, wasn't totally in production, which makes me think whether he actually died. So it's kind of one of those things where, like, he was stabbed. I'm like, but is he dead? Question mark. I don't know. He might be alive. He might be dead. I don't know. Because clearly we thought that Shenik was dead, but she got brought back to life with the mods. So it's kind of one of those things where I don't know anymore what Star Wars. I thought everyone kind of died, including...
He had like all those pipes and stuff. So
I thought everyone died.
He can potentially be fine. Yeah, he can be fine.
It's like a Lazarus pit, for God's sakes.
I thought everyone dies, including the Emperor, and guess what? That didn't happen. So, like see, Rob. The thing about the mouth is that
but you can see his lips, man. Like, listen, I don't disagree in that. I think that they maybe do some enhancements on it to clean up. But I think that's all prosthetic. So you can see those lips he's wearing. Obviously, he's got the dentures on.
I think that to your point, Rob, it's the mouth itself is probably CGI. The teeth, I think they might have just CGI'd the teeth. It's easier than to do that because, again, again,
we'll find out. Maybe they'll release it. Are you happy that the voice actor came back, Stu?
Yeah, it's of course. There's a very particular cadence and voice. And why would you not give him the opportunity? Yeah. Like, it's not like he's showing up on set or anything. It's just it's voice acting.
I would have taken. I'm not familiar with the character at all, but I would have taken Peter Weller doing the voice for that type.
There's a very particular voice for Cad Bane.
He did have a really cool like kind of growl to his voice. It sounded really cool.
And Cad Bane does, like, the guy that does Cad Bane is like the voice actor is Corey Burton, and he's done like a bunch of video games and stuff like that. So he's not like a nobody. He is a guy that, has done voices for a bunch of Disney characters and Transformers. He's been in, I think he's Count Dooku as well in Clone Wars. Yeah. So he's done like a bunch of stuff, including in a bunch of DC films too. So again, he is a voice actor who's done a lot of things. So
but the voice fits the character. Like, not having seen any of the Clone Wars cartoons or whatever, having seen this character, the voice it just matches the character from in these last 2 episodes, and I was happy with it. So
I look back and I look at this episode and the poor is it Gamorreans or the
those guys got dirty
up. Like, and one of those things I get you, Rob, when they're like, oh, all these characters, but you needed that Godfather moment where BK was surrounded by that, and then all of a sudden the Gamorreans were surrounded, and also the mods were surrounded. They're all kind of end their thing and all being taken out. So they kind of got didn't.
It was the gunfight at the OK Corral, right? Yeah. Like, that's what it was.
Like, and again, I liked, although the mods kind of like, well, hey, when Boba Fett was like, I'm gonna go back to the palace, the mods were like, no, we're gonna stay here, and they challenged him to say that this is where the people are, and we need to protect the people. So that was one of those things where, it would at least show some gumption. These are kids, but at the same time, they're willing to stand up to Boba Fett to say, we should make Sanctuary our like last stand. We could go to Jabba's palace and be protected, but that's not helping the people. So it was reflective at the end when Boba Fett's walking down the street and all the people are like giving him like the respect and like Vito Corleone walking down the street, including giving him fruit. Like that was the thing that happened. So it was, you know, it was
I
nice...
only know it from the Simpsons bit where Homer Simpson is like,
yeah.
So you're saying if I watch Godfather 2, this episode is going to get better?
100%. Yes. Yeah, it's one of those things where I think it pulls a lot of that stuff in. And again, it's a true gangster film. Even when, to your point, the way the dynamic between Boba Fett and Din Djarin work is that one is draped in like religion, purpose, and like and like a creed. And Boba Fett is basically like, yeah, that's not that. What that didn't do anything for my dad, and he got screwed. So he's like, I'm on my own. But I think the whole meaning of this whole series for Boba Fett is that look what happened to Cat Bane. Look what happened to Jango Fett. Is that you cannot, if you're a one-man army, you will die a one-man army. So it's about like, hey, you need to find purpose. For him, it was by himself, found family in the Tusken Raiders, his familia, as you would say, his Toretto family. And now he's kind of like, at the even one, Cat is like, why are you doing this? Like, the people are, this is why I'm doing this, because it's...
Yeah, he's like, you've gotten soft in your old age, kind of.
Yeah, like it's for the people. But that's no different than like...
I think you're right, Stu. I think the ideas in this episode are great, but I think the execution just, for me, didn't work.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's the same thing in the Kurosawa, like this lone samurai who goes to town, this Western goes to town, and like the same thing happened in Mandalorian Season 1 where Din was in that, like, with the farmers, right? With the moisture farmers. Like, you could stay here. And he was like, it's like, it's a trope of all tropes of like the gunslinger, like hanging it up and like going soft. So, but, you know, Boba Fett's like, I'm going to take over the cities and look after them. So it was fine. And I did like the nuance between the city folk and the country folk working together. Like, let's hands across America. Let's get back together, help each other. You know, like
they had a moment. It's just the setup after the moment didn't work. You need the cycler. Okay, I need the cycler. All right, this bubble bot is already distracted, so I don't need to distract it further. It doesn't make any sense.
Also, some of them had like the worst guns, like the tiny little pea shooter guns, and I was like,
I think those guns are within the Star Wars lore, though.
Yeah,
those
and that's what the mods have it, and that's funny because when they get to rifle them, and then the guy from Justify or the same character from Rob, I'm getting old, from Deadwood. He's Logan. It's like, what the heck is this? He's like, all right, well, I'm gonna use it. So there is something to say about that. And again, jumping back to Timothy Olyphant, like, I'm glad that the end credit scene was, they were talking about the Baptist tank is empty, and it shows Timothy Olyphant in there. And the you know, the mod king is like going to try to fix him.
Yeah, but I don't. That irritated me. I was like happy to see. I was happy to see Timothy Olyphant in the tank. I was like, oh, cool, because we all know he got shot in the shoulder. I actually expected he was going to be rolling in this episode, like near the end, like
I thought he was going,
you know, whatever. But then to see that the mod guy, and he, you know, he reattaches some new thing on his hand, and he's got like, you know, and I was like the Thor, you know, with Stan Lee, giving him a haircut. And I was like, come on, like, what are you gonna do? Make him like unless you have the voiceover going, we can build him, we can make him better, faster, stronger. Like, I don't want you to do anything to him. Right? Like,
Rob, spoiler alert, he's gonna have a Mega Man arm. It's like he's shot in the shoulder.
A buster
probably
cannon
is gone. So I think he's gonna have a robotic. He's like, you know what? Work for Winter Soldier. We're gonna have this robotic arm, and he's gonna and just go, and like he's gonna be able to do stuff. So I have a feeling that it's gonna be
Bionic Commando, the old NES game.
100%.
Oh, that game was amazing.
He's gonna be able, or Cops. Remember when the guy that had the claw that. Like, that's what it is. Like, he'll have a handcuff that comes out of it that can capture people from away because he's the sheriff. So I think like this is going to be a great combination for him to set that up. So I'm all in. And frankly, by the time he's done feeling Justified, the new season, I think it's only one season anyway. He'll be back to do more Star Wars. Like, Timothy Olyphant is. Why wouldn't you do more Star Wars?
So do you want him to have his own show, or do you think he should just be a supporting character with the Mandalorian?
I think he'd be better just to be part of the Mandalorian and part of the Boba Fett show and be like, you're just part of the crew and that's it. Like, you're here. You can take some time away. You can hang out with Ming-Na Wen, and we're just gonna laugh and have fun. He has this if you read the book, he has some background when he was part of the Galactic Empire. He has all these weird backstories. You could do his thing, or reformat the Justified theme song and let him start wandering the galaxy, righting wrongs
on this lonely road.
This is it. It's a remix, and it's like that, and him just going around. And
that intro for last episode was essentially a Justified showdown. Like even when he started to like eyeball Cad Bane, I'm like, how does Cad Bane win this fight?
And that
I don't know the lore between. Yeah. That Marshall got effed up.
Pretty much Dewey. He's like, what are you doing, Dewey? Like, what are you doing? Shut up.
He was a red shirt. He was only there to get shot.
So I felt like, to your point, they really took all the toys out. They had some cool sequences. Battle droids were awesome. I know people are going to complain. It's like, well, how come we only had 2? Well, remember, these are not cheap things. The Galaxy still you have to pay for stuff.
Was there? No, there was 2. There was 2 battle droids, but they were massive.
But they're massive, and like again, it's like even the Galactic Empire, who had all the money in the world, still had to fight for budgeting concerns. Because
why not lead with the battle droids, by the way?
Because they're expensive, bro. You got gas, you got to pay for energy. Like, come on.
No, they always close with this big ass thing. So in Mandalorian, it was a flame trooper guy into the super cannon at the beginning, and now they wait for the very end to bring out these battle droids.
John apparently just made of money, man. You know how much fuel that costs to turn that robot on? It's not cheap, John. You know, and
there's a bunch of Pike Syndicate guys sitting in the back, like with calculators and spreadsheets, going, "Okay, I think it's now." Red button now. We turn on the.
How much more spice do you need to mine to be able to justify paying for these force fields?
Yeah, there's an anime I remember when a couple 20 years ago. It was one of my favorite anime where they built a giant robot to fight off aliens, but the aliens never came. And they're like, okay, we're gonna make it into a mascot. So they make it in the mascots, and all of a sudden the aliens decide to show up. Like, I guess we'll use the robot to fight the aliens. But every time they fight the aliens, the corporate head office guy's like, oh, you can't use that arm. He's like, why not? It's pretty expensive. He's like, well, we have to fight the aliens. Ooh, let's see if we can budget that in. So it's like a whole show about the fact that like they built a mega robot, they sold off the corporation. The corporation's like, well, do we need to use its fuel? Can we just save it? It's kind of expensive. So I kind of feel it's the exact same. It's corporate, people going, can we use, instead of 2-ply, can we use 1-ply? Like, how do we save money here on the Pike ship? So right. That's the thing, John. So I am already put my hands behind season 2, Book of Boba Fett. Let's keep on going. Electric Boogaloo. John, do you want more of this, or you just say you're done?
Like I said, I wasn't happy with that ending. If you had asked me at the end of episode 6, I would have said, yeah, 100%, bring it on if we're gonna get a couple episodes like this. But 7 turned into that same. You know what? Actually, there's a lot of explosions, a lot of things going on, but I don't think
bang bang bang.
I wouldn't be excited if they announced Book of Boba Fett season 2. I'm definitely not gonna be like, woohoo, thank God that's happening in season 2. If they don't announce anything,
unless they announce that Timothy Oliphant is joining the cast.
Yeah. Unless they add a bunch of people, like if it becomes more of a Boba Fett, Fennec Shan kind of like variety show, so they expand the cast. They've already given Ming-Na was in more episodes than Boba Fett, so
yep.
or Tamir, so like sure. Give her the reins and let her run the show, or let the other characters take some of the load off this character and figure out how to make him more cool, and I guess cool in some people's eyes. Or just
don't take off the helmet. That's the thing to make him cool. Just leave the helmet on and he's cool. Take the helmet off, not cool. I think that's what the Mandalorian taught us. Helmets on, good. Helmets off, bad.
Yeah. So like season 2, sure, whatever. If it happens, I'm not gonna hate on it right out the gate. I'll watch a couple episodes before I do that, but I'm not going to be excited. Definitely not as excited as I was hearing, Jack Reacher season 2. Yeah.
Rob?
Well, it's interesting because I was trying to remember what our thoughts were at the end of The Mandalorian season 1. Were we clamoring for a season 2? Because I know that we kind of felt it was a little bit roller coaster,
yep.
Right? Like it
long-winded, yeah.
And so while John was answering by not answering, I was trying to think like, well, they've announced the Obi-Wan series coming out May 25th. We know there's an Ahsoka series coming out. Mandalorian season 3 is scheduled for December, and I was like, like, are we getting too many? Is it going to be good? Is it quantity over quality? Like, what's happening? And I think that if they were
oversaturation that you're always worried about,
and if they were to do a Boba Fett season 2, I guess my only issues are twofold. One is that I think they need to retool what the purpose is, and bring in Cobb Vance or whatever, and do something else. Keep the helmet on, but because Tamora Morrison is like in his late 50s, like I'm not trying to be an ageist here. When they start filming, if they were to start filming season 2, like by the time that gets released, we're looking at mid to late 2023. Like he's already like at that age of 60. Like what do we? There's a certain amount of illusion of disbelief that you're just not going to be able to deal with his helmet off all the time. So, am I looking forward to? Am I hoping, fingers crossed, for season 2? No, I'm happy with it is. You can put these characters elsewhere. I think you're right, Stu. The likelihood is they probably will greenlight a season 2. I just think they need to retool what the purpose of it is, and what the story would be. What's purpose? What is it serving for? So, sure, I would watch it, but I'm not anticipating it with bated breath. So,
Mr. Morrison is 61 years old.
Okay, so
Ming-Na is 58. Ming-Na
is hot for 58.
I was like looking, I'm like 58. I'm like,
no way,
golly. It's like, so somehow Timmy Morrison looks somehow unable to move around, and Ming-Na looks like perfect.
Yeah.
She could be doing this.
She's like spring break.
Yeah. She's gonna be fine.
She puts on the gear and the helmet when they really need someone to go crazy, right? You don't want to put your principal actors at risk like that. So yeah, I think they just have to adopt the same thing for Boba Fett. Like I don't know what it is.
Well, we all know when we were watching The Mandalorian, that wasn't Pedro Pascal running like that. Like you could tell that.
Even Pedro Pascal is a younger guy, but they still had 2 stuntmen taking his place in the suit.
You could tell.
So do it. Even if you watched like Suicide Squad this week, what's his name? Robert Patrick definitely wasn't him doing all the stuff in the suit, right? That was some type of stuff. Or body double, right? So it worked. It made him look cool and badass. So they just got to adapt it for this. But maybe they did want him prominent because he is getting older. Like they lost their chance with the original Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and stuff like that. They lost their chance. They waited too long. So they got them in a little bit in the movie, but maybe they wanted to do this for this particular guy and get Boba Fett in here. And now they can kind of, pull it back a little.
Well, we're going to see because I think Disney's going to make more announcements. I think they're very
breaking news.
and here's the thing: like, it makes sense for them in my mind logically to still continue living in this particular time frame of the universe for a little bit longer. If they can help, if Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett 2, can just hold it off a little bit longer.
Book of Boba Fett, so you've already had a plan that this is good. This book is going to keep going.
Yeah. So like I think now we can let's call it the Tales of Vance. Like maybe that's the season 2 and Boba Fett kind of shows in the background. Like I feel like we can have some opportunities to just continue on in this particular time in between the 2 movie series until they figure out what they're going to do, because it doesn't look like they have any movies on the dockets. So let's.
How old is Timothy Olyphant? Do you guys know? Or
great question. I will dance around that, and then I will look. Timothy Olyphant is currently 53.
Yeah.
So he's an older guy. So yeah. That's well, most of these actors are older, and but it's. I'm fine with it. Like again, he's not really running around doing that much. Timothy Olyphant's character hasn't been known
swagger. He's not a runner. He's like the Western version of Jason Voorhees. He's just walking wherever he wants to go, and his walk is terrifying. And if he keeps coming after as he's walking, it's like, holy shit, I can't escape this guy. So
to be fair, most of Justified, his head is usually behind a wall, like. And he's like behind a wall, and he's like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And he's like, he's basically every single time He comes in with his gun stance. He's against the wall, back against it, protecting himself, yelling at like whoever he's yelling at, and then turns around, shoots a couple times, and then runs back. So he doesn't really
gets in the car.
Doesn't kung fu kick, doesn't do anything. So Timothy Olyphant in Justified is very, it's very measured to the amount of physical activity he does, and it's not much. So that
in fact, when he played Hitman in the first Hitman movie, he didn't do shit then either. He just walked with his long arms and shot some guns.
Yep, 100%. That was I think he refers to that movie as his house movie. Like he did that movie to buy his house.
Yep.
So he's like, like, and even like when he was like working with Walter Goggins. Walter Goggins was probably the more when it was Boyd Crowder. He was running around doing a lot more things because that's his character, right? Like he was a miner, and even all the stuff he was more physical. And Timothy Olyphant wasn't that like physical character. He just like a police officer, strolls in a vehicle, does a walk, does a draw.
He kicks somebody by the under. He kicks their legs out, and then he just drags them behind him, and that's it. Yeah, he's not hopping over cars. This is not, the Dukes of Hazzard style.
So I think he'll age well in a workout. So I think we're all anticipating that it's going to be some notice of either a second season or another spin-off of it, whether it be Cab Van, because the fact that they had Cobb Vanth in that tank is leading to something, whether he's back in his own show or some sort of spin-off with the mod kids or whatever it is, or clearly they care about Tatooine in some strange reason. And Cassian Andor is coming, so we're gonna get a whole new thing too. So
that reminds. So apparently they've already greenlit a season 2 of that one. That's the rumor. So this is what we have. We have a Cassian Andor. Yeah, we have the Ahsoka, and we at least we know the one that we definitely know is coming up is the Obi-Wan. Are you guys looking forward to that? Because again, it's also another show that takes place in the desert.
100%. Because here's the thing: it's Ewan McGregor, and part of this is about the actor. The actor who, when they're good, they can elevate a show.
Yep.
And we saw what happens when a show has an actor that can't elevate it.
Right. Well, like you being here, Stu, you elevate this show.
I see what you're trying to do. All right, we're gonna wrap up, but I feel. But remember, they already said for Andor that K2SO is not going to be in season 1. So they already said that they're leading up to K2SO being in season 2, and frankly, he was one of the standout characters from that movie. Pretty much all the droids or AI in all the movies are like the one thing that stands out.
Yeah, scene stealers, right?
Yep, including the AI of the Millennium Falcon. So it is what it is. All right, as we slowly wrap up. At the end of the day, I'm gonna rewatch it again probably, and by that, as soon as it's off, I'll turn it back on. I'm probably the only one, but
you're crazy.
Let's go. All right, John, where can we find you on the internet in the desert of the real?
Yeah, so Heroes World podcast on iTunes and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're on Spotify, definitely give us a 5-star rating. Once we get enough, then it actually gets published, so it's not even public our rating and things like that. So it helps us out with the algorithm. So please. Do that if you can. If not, if you're following us on social medias, Facebook, Instagram, the YouTube channel, Heroes World Online, and you can come visit us in person, Heroes World in Markham, Ontario. You can look us up. All the links are in the description and below. If you want to support the show, you can also buy us a coffee via the link, and I'll send you out a sticker pack. So if you want some cool Heroes World and kind of other artists collab stickers, I'll send that out to you. But love to see you guys.
Rob.
Oh, buddy.
Sidekick show.
Oh, man. So we are knee deep into the 90s, the greatest action movie of the 1990s. We are doing the first half of the decade, 1994. And this week, we are in the second round of our first bracket here. So we have True Lies, starring John's favorite Arnold, maybe his favorite Arnold movie. Arnold Palmer. Yep. Okay, up against Arnold's rival of movies, Sylvester Stallone, joining him with Wesley Snipes, and that's Demolition Man.
I believe that's almost the cat, Rob. I just want to correct you. Sorry.
No, you're thinking of Fritz the Cat. So it's Demolition Man up against True Lies. So definitely you want to tune in on Monday night, 8:15 Eastern on YouTube, Twitch, and on the Twitter feeds. join us. Let's talk about it. Let's get in the comments and join the rest of the crew as we debate these two movies of what is better of the two, and we make our way through the bracket.
Just as a reminder, just like in The Godfather and just like Book of Boba Fett, drugs are bad. We've established this. When you're a gangster and you know drugs are bad, you know the Corleone family is not for drugs. You don't want the drugs in your world. Just like Boba Fett, I don't want the spice on my world. So, moral of the story is, drugs are bad. Killing is good if it's for the right reason and if it's justified. Thanks all for watching. See you later. Bye, everyone.